Jaden is the only one in the chat, and Jaden is leaving here, so we might just be talking to ourselves. But this is the voter guide for the Beaumont Municipal election for May 3rd, 2025, which is very exciting. We are voting for a bunch of different things. We're going to be covering all of the different candidates who are in contested races on the ballot. We're voting for mayor, we're voting for city council, and we're voting for the school board or the BISD board of trustees. You sound like the kid that no one showed up to their birthday party. That's not true. It's just everyone has not showed up yet. It'll be fine. We are going through all the different candidates. And I want to preface all of this by saying this is my personal opinion. I am fallible and definitely did not do anywhere near the level of research that I should have done to probably speak as definitively as I'm going to be speaking about a lot of these candidates. But I think I've done more research than maybe the average voter, and have been kind of clued into a lot of the have been clued into a lot of the issues locally and kind of follow local politics a lot. So I'm going to be talking about all the different candidates because for every election, especially local elections, I'm always so frustrated by how little resources there are to, be an informed voter whenever I'm going to the poll. Whenever I was like growing up and going to vote for the first time, there were so many people on my ballot that I was just like, I have no clue what any of these names are or even any of these positions are. You kind of know like the top line, like mayor, president. You kind of know a lot of the top line positions, but a lot of those are very opaque and difficult to find and understand. So we're going to be talking about all of these different positions, what all of their different responsibilities are, and all of the different candidates that are running to fill those positions. Like I said, this is not definitive. Everything that I say is just going to be my total opinion. But I'm going to be referencing, I'm leaning so heavily, hey, this is an important PSA. Everybody go out and buy a newspaper. Doesn't matter where you buy it from. Just buy a local paper from any place where you find your local paper. Gosh, this chat is so slow. Anyway, out for real this time. Nice not to get canceled while educating the people. Try not to get it canceled. I will try not to do that, even though we've got some spicy tidbits about some of these candidates. It's going to be very exciting. I am leaning very, very heavily. Go and buy a newspaper. Go and subscribe to your local newspaper. I work for the Examiner newspaper here in Beaumont. I just do layout and design for them. I don't do any of our reporting. I am not on our editorial team, and everything that I say in this election guide completely represents my own personal opinion and in no way reflects the opinion of anybody at the Examiner. But I am very strongly leaning on published reporting from institutions like the Examiner, like the Beaumont Enterprise, like Channel 12, like Channel 6 and 4. All of these different news organizations are the only reason why we have any level of detail about any of these candidates at all. And a lot of TV stations are owned by huge national corporations that are administered from far off places. And newspapers are far more, in my opinion, which is biased, I guess. But in my opinion and experience, newspapers are a far more reliable source of high quality original reporting. And so go buy a newspaper. It is so vital to support institutions of reporting in your local city, regardless of where you're watching this from. Go buy a newspaper, because without those institutions of public reporting, we wouldn't know anything about these candidates. We wouldn't be in any kind of position to be able to hold our elected officials accountable for their decisions that they make or their past behaviors, without having people who are dedicating their time and their energy and their effort to reporting the truth to people who need that to make good decisions about how they vote for elected officials. So the news is vitally important. Your local news is so important, and so much here recently within the last few years. Giant private equity firms are just gobbling up small independent local papers and cutting them down to operate with the absolute minimum amount of resources so that they can make the absolute maximum amount of profit. And it has led to just news deserts all over our country, unfortunately. So go and support your local paper. Everything that I am going to be talking about in this election guide is sourced from reporting from local institutions of journalism. I don't have any of those institutions explicitly stated on here, but all of them, Channel 6 did like debates with all of the different city council candidates so that you can hear them speak in their own words. Those are on YouTube. The Enterprise has great like know your candidate stories where they issued a bunch of questions to candidates and got them to give them back written responses, and then they just published those responses. The Enterprise keeps up with local city council events, but in particular has been doing what they've been doing for so long that there is a huge dearth of really high quality reporting in their archives about huge events from a long time ago. So like understanding what happened with like the TA takeover and with Calvin Walker and Woodrow Reese and David Moore and Odwin Samuel, all of that reporting is really you can find all of that reporting in these institutions of reporting, and that's where I've been getting a lot of this from. So all of this is highly sourced, and I can probably in the description of these videos post my sources, but I owe everything in these to those sources, and do not trust me to represent those sources accurately. I'm doing this live. I'm doing this off the seat of my pants. I'm doing it all from memory, even though I got slides for notes and stuff. So please do go and follow up behind me and check out the veracity of the things that I'm talking about for yourself with these public institutions of public information, public reporting, because that's where I got all this from. That said, everything that I'm going to be talking about here is my own personal opinion and doesn't reflect the opinions of any of those institutions of reporting, especially the Examiner does not reflect the opinions of anyone at any of those institutions other than what has been published. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm super excited about it. It's going to be really great. However, there are a couple of things that we need to kind of start off with understanding. City councils, local governance, in a lot of ways, their entire role for the city is to be a rubber stamp to facilitate business that happens in a given area. So there are a lot of things like in the mayoral candidate, I tried to find, especially for people like Robin Mouton, served as mayor for a term, and so I tried to go and tried to find like specific good or negative things that happened in her term or that she accomplished in her term. But like as an example, one of those things is OCI expanded their facilities and built a new plant that was worth like $1 billion underneath Robin Mouton's leadership. Robin Mouton herself in the Beaumont Enterprise says that this project was in the work for 11 years before she finally approved it during her term. And so my point there is simply that, Robin Mouton, as much as I guess you can credit her because it happened during her term, is kind of just serving a facilitating role of rubber stamping business and industrial developments that are happening in her area under her authority. That's not to say that she doesn't have authority and could not be antagonistic towards businesses on behalf of working class people in her city. It's just largely that's not the way that local politics works in America, and especially in smaller towns in America. So while there are going to be a couple of issues, I'm going to be able to say, see, this candidate is advocating for this, or this candidate did that. Those are hard ways to those are hard standards to judge what, like, the quality of their city councilmanship, or their mayoral term. Those are hard ways to judge the quality of how good or bad of a mayor they were. To me, a far more effective way is looking at the ways that the city is managed, and looking at the ways that workers are protected in cities underneath people's individual leadership. Like, because Robert Mouton can rubber stamp OCI building an entire new plant there. She has the ability to demand of OCI, hey, I want you to, before I give you this rubber stamp, I want you to do these specific things to help your workers. Or, like, if a business, especially if the city is treating their workers unfairly, the city council has a large amount of authority to be able to intervene on behalf of working class people in their city and say, hey, cut this out. We're not doing this anymore. You're going to treat these people fairly. And so, instead of looking at like accomplishments, looking at the way that city administrators and city leaders work to protect working class people in their city, and work to wisely facilitate investments and the accumulation of resources for their city so that they can better take care of working class people in their city, to me, are far more effective ways of gauging whether or not a candidate is going to be a good fit for a given position. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different candidates. We're going to kind of be talking about what some of their policy stances are and policy issues are. But we are also going to be talking about a couple of different ways that candidates have in the past or plan to in the future help protect working class people in their city. So without further ado, without further preface, we're gonna jump right into it. This is the voter guide for the Beaumont Municipal election. Voting happens on April 22nd through April 29th. It starts happening. Early voting starts happening April 22nd to April 29th at these various locations here. You do want to pay attention to these times because for April 22nd to April 26th, you can go from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The polls are closing kind of early. And then specifically on Sunday, April 27th, the polls don't open until 12. And then close at 5. But for the entire week before the May 3rd election, April 28th through April 29th, polls are open 12 hours a day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You shouldn't have a problem during early voting getting in pretty quickly and being able to vote pretty quickly. But I will say, like, if there is any kind of line there at the end of the day, they usually do close those doors at 7 p.m., even if there are people in line. That's going to be a far more important thing to have in mind for actual election day on May 3rd from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. These are all the different locations that you can go and vote. Places like the Amelia Elementary School, the BISD Administration Building, Rogers Park, Carlton Pollard Elementary, the Jefferson County Courthouse, a whole bunch of different places that you can go and you can cast your ballot. Like I said, that the voting times are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and sometimes they are nice and they will let people in the line at 7 p.m. kind of work their way inside before they close the doors, but they don't necessarily have to do that. And if you are there at 7 p.m., they might close the door and you are in line, like if that line is going out the building, they can and may close the doors on you. So I very much recommend that you get there at the very least before 6 if you are going to go on voting day. The registration deadline for the April 3rd election was, for the May 3rd election, was on April 3rd. So hopefully you're registered to vote. If you are not, sorry, sad day, better luck next time. You can check to see if you are registered to vote at texas.gov or at that link there. I can put that link right here in the chat. There you go, buddies. You can click on that link in the chat and you can go immediately and insert a little bit of your information and see if you are registered to vote. if you were registered to vote for the November election, you almost certainly are going to be registered to vote for this one. But don't take my word for that. Go in and double check that you are registered before you go, so that you don't waste your time. Whenever you get there, you need to have a valid form of photo ID. So you're going to get to the polling location. You're going to go inside. There's going to be a table of very nice election workers. Hey, everybody, you should thank your election workers, because they give up huge amounts of their time to work very long hours just to facilitate our ability and constitutional right to go in and participate in the democratic process to elect our leaders. So election workers are awesome, and are almost all volunteers. Ham Solo, who may be in the chat later, is an election worker. He volunteers his time every election to go and sit at polling places and help facilitate people's right to the democratic process. So whenever you get to your polling location, you're going to walk inside. You're going to see a table full of election workers. There's probably going to be like 3 different election workers there. They're going to call you out to the table, and they're going to ask for your form of photo ID. In Texas, these are the 7 different valid forms of photo ID. If you have a Texas driver's license, that will be fine. It doesn't necessarily have to be a real ID driver's license either. It just can't be expired. But, and see, this is when I wish the Ham was in the chat. I think even if it's expired, you can fill out a little thing and get an exemption if I remember correctly, but don't count on that. If it is expired, make sure that it's not expired before you go to vote. Live. Okay, how do I do this? I'm explaining it to you. So you're going to go to your polling location. There's going to be a table with 3 people at it. You're going to give them your valid form of photo ID, one of these 7 different forms of photo ID. Make sure that it's not expired. They're going to enter you into the system. They're going to have you select one of 3 blank ballots that are in front of them. You select your ballot, and you go to one of the different polling machines. At the machine, there's going to be a little slot on your right-hand side. You take that blank paper ballot and you put it into the little slot. It's going to get sucked up into the machine. It's going to write a unique code onto that paper ballot, and then it's going to bring up a program on your screen with the different candidates on the ballot. This is what it's going to look like. Oh, I just remembered, I can't vote till September this year. How unfortunate, Liv. I'm so sorry. This is what your ballot is going to look like if you were able to vote. Sorry. Once you put your blank one into the machine, it'll get sucked up. It'll write a unique code onto the ballot, and it'll give you this screen. Here is a zoomed in version of it. It'll give you some instructions, and then it'll have each little block for each different candidate. And you will, on the little touch screen, tap each bubble to vote for each one of your candidates. You do want to pay attention here. Most of these say vote for none or one, so you can only select one at a time. Council member at large, you can select 1 or 2, because there are 2 different council members at large, so you can select 2 of these different candidates. That is the only one that you're going to be able to select 2 bubbles, so you want to make sure that you do that. You select the bubbles for all the different candidates. You are only going to get, if we go back here, you can see we have the mayor and we have council member at large. Everybody in the city of Beaumont is going to get both of those on their ballot. Then you have council member for Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, Ward 4. You are only going to get on your ballot, whenever you're registered to vote, it's going to log your address there. And so the machine is going to know what ward you live in. You're only going to get whatever ward you live in on your screen to vote for. So you're not going to see, like, if you live in Ward 1, you're not going to see Ward 2 or Ward 3. So it might not look exactly like this. And don't freak out if you're like, oh no, I really wanted to vote for Corey Crenshaw in Ward 1, but I live in Ward 2. If you don't live in the ward, you can't vote for that candidate. Sorry. Same thing for the Beaumont ISD Board of Trustees. You will only get the candidates for the district that you live in for the school board. But yeah, this is a zoomed in version of it. It's going to give you some instructions. You're going to see each little block. You select a little bubble. And then once you finish everything, you click that you're done. And it's going to spit your paper ballot back out with all of your choices printed onto the ballot. You have not voted yet. Once you have that paper ballot back in your hand, you still have not voted. All you did was you selected the candidates that you wanted and got it printed onto the ballot. You have to then go to a separate machine, and there will be election workers to walk you through all of this if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, but it's pretty simple. Once you get there, it'll be simple. You will then go to a separate machine where you will submit your ballot to be tabulated in the future. There will be it'll be like towards the exit, and there will be an election worker next to it. So you go over to that machine, you put your ballot into that machine, and now your ballot is getting ready to be counted. But your ballot has not been submitted if you just fill in the bubbles and then don't remember to grab your paper ballot and put it into the second machine. So that's really important. You want to remember to do that. Any questions from Liv, the only person in chat? Maybe. Before we move on to mayor.